Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Carol Sakey speaking. Well, today I'd like to speak about Te Puni Kōkiri and their 2020 to 2024 strategic intentions. They created the He Puapua report, which was introduced into Parliament by Ngāne Mahuta in January 2019, and here it is here. Now, people can find that online, actually, and I advise you and urge you to look at that. So I'll just put that over there for a moment and go about talking about the conclusions that I have made as to Lee Williams being told by Westpac that they're going to close his bank account at the end of the month, and Lee Williams being stood down from his job and being severely targeted by the Maori Party and by followers of them on social media, etc. So Westpac, they have an action plan. Now, I got this off of Westpac's site, actually, from newsletters. They have an action plan 2012 to 2023 to have a close relationship with iwi Maori communities, business, whānau enterprises, Maori economy, aspirations, etc., Maori interests. So their website have stated they've made commitments to UN declarations of rights of Indigenous peoples, and which is the core to what is happening with He Puapua. This is the enactment into New Zealand of a co-governance through the He Puapua report. So we go on to Westpac's statement, and they say that they respect advanced human rights, stating that all people are entitled to basic rights and freedoms, no matter where they are from, their religion, gender, race, and other status. So they also commit to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, respect civil and political rights of individuals. This includes freedom of religion, freedom of speech, of assembly, plus electoral rights. And they made a statement of committance following the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, where free speech is a political right. Freedom of expression, which is a human right under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So they recognise international human rights laws. Westpac commits to the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and this equates to safeguards to fundamental political freedoms, economic freedoms for the individual. So they also commit to New Zealand laws, the New Zealand Bill of Rights, which spells out that the freedom of expression is preserved under this Act. The right to seek, receive and impart information and opinions of any kind in any form. Under Westpac's policies and guidelines, they state they will not engage in political engagements. Westpac's Code of Conduct documents do the right thing for our customers. Have they done the right thing for Lee Williams? He's the customer. I think not. So, and as for not engage in political engagements, well, if Lee Williams has not broken the law, and he hasn't broken the law, he's a law-abiding citizen, he hasn't money laundered, so what else is there? Is it political? I would say so. So let's go on with this. They recognise self-determination and cultural development. So they commit to the UN Declaration of Rights of the Indigenous People. And that's what they say. So they commit to Te Puni Kōkiri's He Puapua. So they recognise self-determination and cultural development. So on the 11th of October 2019, Westpac shared an equity model for whānau as to building a housing development in Waikato. And who created this? Te Puni Kōkiri, because Te Puni Kōkiri have a very good financial relationship with Westpac. So this is a shared equity model established through the relationship with Westpac and the Westpac Head of Maori Diversity and Inclusion, Fontaine Moses Tikani, with Te Puni Kōkiri, a financial scheme developed with Westpac. So obviously, Te Puni Kōkiri has a very good relationship with Westpac Bank. Te Puni Kōkiri, being Ministry of Maori Development, advises government agencies bringing a sharper focus on Maori interests. So Te Puni Kōkiri working with a law firm to develop the financial scheme with Westpac Bank. They are a specialist, this law firm is a specialist in commercial corporate banking. So Te Puni Kōkiri was established in 1991 under the Maori Development Act, and they have 18 offices throughout New Zealand. And Nānia Mahutu, she actually introduced this He Pūpua into Parliament in January 2019, and although Judith Collins is kicking up and won't back down about this and calls it separatism, none of the parties, political parties in the toilet bowl of Wellington, actually let the general public know about this right through prior election, right through to this year when an OIA, Official Information Act request, was put in. Thus, the information came out. It did not come out voluntary to let us all know. It was done under the veil of secrecy. So this has caused a lot of concern in New Zealand, apartheid, separatism, division, especially for those who believe in these beautiful words, he iwi tahi tātou, let us all be one people. And that's what I myself believe in. So we've got the Westpac supporting the UNDRIP and He Pūpua. We have the Maori Party, Debbie, Naru, Paka and Waititi, totally on board with He Pūpua and are really, really viciously attacking those who oppose it. So what's the connection with Maori Party and He Pūpua? Well, John Key, the Maori Party did a trade-off with John Key in 2008. Thus, Peter Sharples, who was leading the Maori Party, then went off to the UN and signed the UNDRP, the Indigenous Rights, the Declaration. And it's non-binding, but New Zealand want to be the first one to make it binding. However, Canada has already stepped up and they've made it binding last year. So this has blown up a huge storm in New Zealand, and Judith Collins repeatedly calls at Te Pūpua an attempt to co-governance, separatism by stealth, and Waititi and Paka were chucked out of Parliament because Waititi did a war dance. He was very upset. So we're talking about He Pūpua being the roadmap to co-governance between Crown and Maori. And the Maori Party playing the race card game, encouraging their followers to target those who oppose He Pūpua, destroying people. This is a divide and conquer oppressor versus oppressed to weaken a nation, for people to destroy each other, deliberately so. So we've got Collins who refuses to back down, and the race card being played. Divide and conquer. So Ardern tried to talk about He Puapua. She was questioned in Parliament by Collins, and Ardern tried to fight her way out of a paper bag by saying that Collins was just upset. She didn't like it because she got less votes than Ardern did. But this really is a political minefield. So we're talking about, we already have a separate Maori Health Authority, and that was created by Te Puni Kōkiri, the plan for self-determination. So join the dots, people. Lee Williams is told Westpac are going to close his account at the end of the month. He hasn't done money laundering. He's been accused of it. He's not committed a crime. Let's join the dots. Maori Party and Te Puni Kōkiri. They're planning to enforce the roadmap of He Puapua, co-governance, separatism and division apartheid in New Zealand. Peter Sharples signed the Indigenous Peoples Declaration at the UN. Are you joining the dots? And Te Puni Kōkiri has a close financial relationship with the Westpac Bank. Fontaine Moses Tikani is Westpac Bank's head of Maori Diversity Inclusion, and he has been working with Te Puni Kōkiri. They have a close financial relationship. So here we have the Declaration of Indigenous Rights that Westpac commits to He Puapua. Maori Party committing to He Puapua. Crown committing to He Puapua. Westpac committing to He Puapua. And Lee Williams has the guts and courage to speak up publicly on social media and off of social media opposing He Puapua. And Lee Williams has only just started being targeted by a political party because he never was until OIA request came about and all this was let out to the public. They never bothered him before. It was only people like Byron Clark who did that. Byron Clark, who is the editor of the socialist magazine Fight Back. So Lee Williams, he's courageous. He's publicly spoken up about opposing the socialist leftist Marxist government. And he's been severely attacked. He's lost his income. He's lost his job. And now Westpac closing his bank account. Social media, give a little page. That was taken down by someone, some persons, individuals, I don't know, but another attack on Lee Williams. And also a socialist who follows him, who's a radical activist, actually let out into the public his private address, his home address. Last year, this is not the beginning of it, because last year, political policing, they closed off his street, they violated his home space, armed police, only to ask him, does he support Trump? And twice they've made visits to his home. So people, have you joined the dots? Westpac Bank supporting Te Puni Kōkiri. He Puapua strategic plan. The man has not committed a crime. Lee Williams has not committed a crime. He hasn't money laundered, so therefore it's got to be political. And yet Westpac say they don't get into the political engagement. So you've got Westpac, financial connection with Te Puna Kōkiri over Waikato, housing development, their plans there, and Fontaine Moses Ducani, Westpac Head of Maori Diversity Inclusion, Westpac Bank, dealing with Te Puna Kōkiri. Yes, Te Puna Kōkiri, who created this plan of He Puapua, well, co-governance of New Zealand, with this good relationship with Westpac, and Lee has his bank account closed down. So people, get up with the play, because Lee is not going to be the only one. This is just the start. I already have friends who have lost their income because they politically spoke up. So I've read Westpac's policies and guidelines, and they include the following commitments. All peoples should have the basic rights and freedoms, no matter who they are, gender, race, and other status, respecting civil and political rights of individuals, freedom of speech, free speech, a political right, electoral rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19. Westpac committed to safeguards conditionings of fundamental political economic freedoms to the individual. Freedom of expression, New Zealand Bill of Rights, 1990, of opinions, imparting information, seeking, receiving. Westpac will not engage in political engagements. So Lee Williams didn't break the law, he didn't do money laundering. So is it political engagements? Have they broken their own code of conduct? Westpac have zero tolerance to unlawful discrimination against customers, really? Okay, I question that. New Zealand human rights makes it unlawful to discriminate based on political opinion. So join the dots, people. Waititi, Maori Party, Te Puna, Kōkiri and Westpac Bank, all on the same page, commit to the Declaration of Indigenous Rights, He Puapua. And Te Puna, Kōkiri, share the same bank, Westpac Bank, as Lee Williams. This reeks like a toilet bowl, a dirty toilet bowl. So Westpac's own statement of purpose, commitments to International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Human Rights Law, Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, New Zealand Bill of Rights. They've broken their own guidelines. They've breached all of these international laws and declarations. And I can only conclude this is about political, not criminal, that Westpac are closing Lee Williams' account. So it's discrimination, political discrimination. So here we have it. Lee Williams severely targeted. And New Zealand is going down the toilet bowl. So as for Westpac, what is happening with Williams, I believe the Westpac need to make a clear public statement why they've decided to close Lee's account. I personally believe that Westpac have violated many of their own commitments, their code of conduct as to international declarations and laws agreements. Lee Williams deserves a full explanation from his past employer as to why he was stood down from his job, because they too have broken employment law, they've broken human rights, civil liberties, they've broken declarations international, the same as Westpac. So Lee Williams, as I say, won't be the last one. This is severe breaches of international and national laws. Westpac and Lee's past employer. So people, you need to learn a bit by this because, as I say, Lee Williams won't be the first one to be targeted, to be threatened verbally, physically threatened, viciously targeted. This is just the start. I've already had friends lose their jobs over their political ideologies opposing the government's ideology, Ardern's ideology, opposing socialism, Marxism, and communism. And they were targeted. They lost their jobs. And in fact, one of them in his 60s was knocked to the ground, and the police just turned their back on him, did nothing. And, you know, people, our democracy is being destroyed. It's being targeted. So please, people, share, and subscribe.